go for it.
Okay, so I guess it's my turn, right? So if you didn't know, the session is being recorded of MVP Office Hours for August 6th, 2021. Welcome to MVP Office Hours. We're so excited you're here. You can find us on Twitter at MVP Office Hours, or Dale or myself or Squire at our Twitter handles. You can also contact us through the website or our Gmail address, mvpofficehoursus@gmail.com. On the right of your, I guess, our video, our screen, our deck, is events and upcoming Dreamin' events. And OMG, look at that. Dreamforce is listed. So look out for announcements with that. Yeah.
Except for the whole New York, London, Paris thing. But yeah, it's still coming.
The virtual thing, right? It's coming. And so there's going to be some interesting, exciting things with that. And then we encourage everybody to check these things out and check out Customer Success Event Calendar and the Trailhead events and webinars, because there's some cool stuff out there. One of the coolest things is this free certification prep that's out there, and it comes out every once in a while. And sometimes you get a voucher for $40 or $50 or $100 or $6. I don't know, but there's usually some bonus to doing the certification prep with Salesforce. And we encourage you to join us on the Trailblazer group or other in-person and virtual groups that are in the success community. Next slide, please. We also have global MVP office hours with Carlos. On the last Thursday of each month, he speaks in English and Portuguese and translates among everything. So you don't have to speak Portuguese to go to Portuguese office hours. Sometimes that last Thursday works with your schedule better than our US first and third Friday. So visit Carlos. But the US MVP office hours, we meet the first and the third Friday, unless there is a holiday that upsets the apple cart or a 5-week month. And that's always up for debate, right? You can register at our link, bit.ly.usmvpoh. The recordings are available in the community. You can find the link on Twitter and in YouTube. Whoa, where are we going?
Sorry.
That's all right. You can't multitask when you're driving. And then our favorite hashtags are listed. The rules of the road, if you will, is that everybody participates. We'd like you to share your experience, your input, and your recommendations. And of course, if you have references, like you've been Googling furiously while the rest of us are like talking through the solution, share the reference links in the chat, please. If you have a question, raise your hand in the chat and unmute yourself. Use the chat for resources and links, etc. Mute yourself when you're not sharing, because I know you don't want to hear my dog barking. I would love to hear your dogs barking, but it disrupts things. So announce who you are, because we don't recognize everyone's voice. I would love to be able to recognize all of your voices that quickly, but I can't. And then we would love for you to share your screen, but please don't share any private information or company confidential information, because we are recording the session to be published on YouTube in a public channel. So if you can't share the data, don't share it with us. Next slide. MVPs. Do we have MVPs? Any MVPs? I see 1, I see 2, I see 3, I see 4. And all of my non-video participants are hidden, so I can't see who else is on. Anyone else? Anyone else? Oh, but there, the puppy. We're all MVPs here. We're helping each other out. We're getting everybody through the challenges. So if you're here, you're one of our MVPs, and we're glad you're here. Next. All right. Salesforce order of execution and the Mandela effect.
We haven't added anything new to that in a while. I think maybe I'm going to hide that slide until we have another item to add.
So speaking
It's
of the
prestigious
Mandela
company, you can't hide it. It's prestigious company.
So speaking of that, though,
No, I think you just need to add some more stuff to it.
There you go.
I keep having like Will Smith in different movies, and I can't like.
Because of MFA, so I generate. Salesforce allows me to generate a code off your user account that lets them in.
Hi,
So that's what
Todd.
that is. That's
Hi,
the other
Todd. I
reason
think
why
you're talking to everybody.
It's okay. It's just.
I got him. It's okay.
I was like, I don't know. I missed part of the conversation. Shoot. Okay. So Todd, we'll catch you in a minute. Mandela effect, something that you think happened, but it didn't happen. It's really weird. And then the order of execution, obviously, that is something that's important when we're building out the cool things like workflows and process builder and triggers and all that great stuff.
I've already referenced it 3 times this week on a project. Fun fact, case assignment rules precede declarative automation
Good to know.
because that's where it bit me all 3 times.
So there's that. And then our next slide is just, do we have anything that was mentioned in the success group this week or last week? Or in the
There,
I just
not
saw
so
an
much new
update on the
questions.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
No, go ahead. Sorry. Yeah, you're right. Updates.
Yeah, just a couple comments about cases that were brought up and then revisited. I'm just going to bring it up really quick, unless you got it handy there, Dale.
We had here. One of the questions from the last call was being able to report on cases from the parent level on down from any level of the account hierarchy. And we definitely had a good back and forth conversation on not only how, but why report on the whole hierarchy from anywhere in the account if it's potentially going to be ambiguous or misleading. What are the actual requirements behind this reporting? And so Diane came back and said she figured it out, created a formula field on the account. If is blank parent ID, comma ID parent ID based on this article. There was an article to a blog post. I'm going to guess it's very similar to Steve Moe's like
ultimate parent.
Ancestral ultimate parent. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah. And then the other question that came up that then I just clicked in was answered was a question around, has anyone enabled Einstein opportunity scoring in a full sandbox? Not many of our opportunities were scored. What have your results been? Are there any best practices for testing Einstein opportunity scoring in a sandbox? The response to that was, I had a similar experience with trying to test Einstein opportunity scoring prior to rolling out to a production org. Per Salesforce, Einstein opportunity scoring only works in a full sandbox with 6 months of historical opportunity data present. Full sandboxes do not copy record history, which is interesting. Did not know that. So in order to meet this Einstein scoring requirement in a full sandbox, you will need to export the historical opportunity data from your production environment and import it back into the full sandbox, parentheses, yuck. Not my words, the responder.
So it's true. And there needs to be like X number of opportunities also. I don't know what that magic number is, but there's a number.
For Einstein?
Yeah, for the scoring and stuff. Yeah, it's I've used the Einstein scoring in a previous life, and we had a similar challenge. We were not given the solution of, just move your history back. But we didn't have it. We didn't.
That number has gone way down over time, though. That used to be a large number, and I think it's gone down into the hundreds. I can look it up, but I know that used to be a very large number. But I know that it's gone down and down and down every release.
It was at least 3 years ago, so don't take my word for that, because
yeah, I think because it was like 10,000 at one point.
Yes, it was.
Yeah,
I think it's in the hundreds now at this point in time.
And I think they also offer now the opportunity for you to join into a more of a global scoring model, where they'll use, so you don't have to have that large number of opportunities, and they'll use information from other, I don't know how they pull it together, but it's an option in Einstein scoring now that you can choose to use a model that is more global, that comes up with numbers based upon not just your data.
Yeah, you can start
data as opposed to real data. The way that we're supposed to be using opportunities, not the way that we're using. Go ahead, Squire.
200 is the current
200 makes sense. Yeah, but Barb's exactly right. So in the new global scoring model, it uses a model that has been derived. The learning model is a machine learning model, and it grows based on the data that it's fed. And so the global learning model is fed with data from all sorts of resources, not just your org,
right,
but other orgs, and then comes up with a default value. As it learns more about your org's data, that machine learning model then overwrites basically the model that it has for that basic default model.
Right. Awesome.
Hello, this is Ernesto. One thing to point out on Einstein is that you can still use the analytics even if you don't have those 200 opportunities, if you pay the license for it, obviously, but not the free one.
Well, and I'll add one other thing that we just learned is, as strange as it might sound, if you're not using native opportunities as designed, some of the templates and the scoring doesn't work at all. So keep that in mind as well. On top of having 200, there's a couple critical data points that have to be utilized in your process.
Amount, date.
Oddly enough, amount and stage are obvious, but there's one other one too that I can't think of it.
Like previous stage is one of them that when we talk to Salesforce, like, we already know the stage. What is previous stage? And there was some reason behind it of that factors into the path that it's been on. And if your org doesn't use the path, or not the path, but stages in a way that makes sense, then your opportunity scoring model can really, really stink.
Yeah. I remember the previous stage issue being that if you jump a stage, analytics or the scoring has to understand that it jumped through every stage with a 0 time factor. And so the only way to know that is to know what where it came from as well.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, another one of those great topics. So
all right.
One other tidbit of info that we ran into with Einstein opportunity scoring was once you close a deal, whether it's won or lost, the score is wiped out. So it's a 0. And you're like, well, that doesn't help me a whole lot. I would have liked to have known what the score was on the one opportunity
before we started.
Exactly.
Right. So that like you can see that like the score was X and we won it, or the score was Y and we lost it. Like we want to know.
Yes.
And you know,
you could programmatically, or even with a flow track the prior.
And
I don't know.
and if you're an organization that clones opportunities, like you clone a previous opportunity, that really messes with opportunity scoring because it doesn't know what the heck to do with that.
I
new
want the
opportunity.
names of people who are cloning opportunities because that feels like the easiest way to kill absolutely everything.
Yeah, Einstein doesn't know what to do with a clone. It's like Dolly the sheep. I don't know.
So that's funny. I can't even do it. All right. So any other questions or comments around Einstein opportunity scoring? Because I think that is a fantastic topic that a user group should pop up again, because we haven't seen that in a while, I know, in Chicago. But if we do that, I'll let you guys know. Any other questions? Or is everyone here just here to chat and talk to me about the right sunscreen for vacation?
good topic.
Hi, this is Jeannie Wallenstein. I have a question to throw out to the group. So I had this oddball thing happen about a month ago where one of my sales, so there's 5 admins of our org, and one of the admins who kind of manages the industry field on our account page noticed hundreds and hundreds of unexpected values that popped into the industry field. Things that would not be appropriate for our use whatsoever. And we don't look at this field every day. So I couldn't find a way to say 6 months ago, this was our defined list. It just all of a sudden changed. And I could now look through, I think there's 1,300 values in there right now. Yeah. And say, yep, that one's correct. Nope, not that one. Yep, that one, not that one. So I started to do as best as I could, how to find out how this happened, when it happened, why it happened. And I'm just kind of stuck. I found out that industry is a global picklist value. It can't be changed by a managed package, but it might have been changed by an unmanaged package. Maybe data.com. Yes, we do use data.com. It's showing a last modified date of a user who is active and admin back from 2018. Doesn't remember that date or making any manual kind of upserts.
Have you checked any of those updates that came through the audit log? I'm assuming you've done that.
Yeah, I looked at the setup the trail
right
log.
Yep.
And I can't find anything that's identified there. So the next step I did was to look at every single managed and unmanaged package. Yeah, the values are the same in Sandbox and production. They're all 1300. They are duplicate. They're both there. So I started reaching out to all the vendors who have managed and unmanaged packages and politely asked if this could have been done by some upgrade or update or on our part. And I'm getting kind of a no. So anyway, would love anybody's thoughts on that.
I have a possible theory. I mean, this is all just theory based on not knowing. But if I had a sandbox that I was working on as a developer and I built it not from production, but from scratch or from some other source, and it was loaded with hundreds of options for that pick list, and then I promoted my sandbox to production, it potentially could overwrite that global pick list with whatever was in my sandbox accidentally.
Yeah.
But that would change the data, would it, Stu?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Depending on how I loaded it, perhaps.
Because I wasn't aware of a way to do a data change to a pick list unless you do those changes in the setup. You know how you can say like turn A into B.
You can do an XML upload or package upload
to force the actual data change as well.
Oh well, not the data change, but the metadata change.
Yeah, you're changing
of
just
the pick list.
The metadata. The metadata of the list. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can definitely push the global pick list through a change, definitely. But I thought I heard her say that the data itself had changed as well.
Something just came to mind. You said 2018.
Correct.
Yeah, that theory totally makes sense because what came out in 2018? SFDX and Scratch orgs and all the things that everybody was told, go play with these. You probably got somebody who played with one of those and made a colossal oopsie with it.
And then pushed it back.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I mean.
Well, let's flip that around the other way. So that field is owned and updated by data.com. And if you've got it enabled and you're using clean, it makes changes to that list to let the SIC code mapping work. So if you're using clean or running a data.com job, that could have done that too.
Okay.
So, the end result is exactly what Stu and Dale are saying. If something caused an update, either an SFDX package that updated the global or the data.com update.
So I kind of understand that. I'm sorry. I'm just kind of I'm a somewhat seasoned admin.
Okay.
So next course of
action. The question there is, if you have data.com and it's active, do you have a scheduled data.com clean job that runs, or did someone manually click the clean button?
I can ask that question. Okay.
Because that would explain why they all updated, why your pick list looks like it changed, because data.com would run in the background and just fix all your SIC code references to whatever that clean job suggests.
And this is a list that we would not, there's stuff in there that's like one of the values says umbrella. We would never have put that in there, would never have come from our list. There's other stuff that I won't mention that's just has to do with just it's like one of them's toilet preparations, not something we would put in there. So just stuff that, nope. Not an industry that we're going after.
Right?
We use that one a lot, actually.
Right?
Yeah. So umbrellas, yes, I'm in the umbrella industry. I like it.
Yeah, I just, and that, of course, that's what caught our eye. Like, nope, we didn't. So are you saying that this list came from another, managed by data.com? And it's not something that we just kept on the side and then was inactive. It came from data.com?
So the way I understand it, the clean job will run through your accounts using the SIC code, will remap the industry per that code during the clean job. Because the clean job also will then bring in new SICs based on the identifier in the account itself. But so if you put that all kind of under the covers, then if it's going to do a mapping, it has to have a global pick list value in order to select it, to add it to the field, et cetera, et cetera. So it feels like that's a possible option. We're all just guessing.
Yeah.
I don't want to take away from anything that Stu and Dale were just saying. Like, someone could have just messed with your global pick list. That's very possible too. So
Yeah. All right. So let me have a conversation with, I do know that it was installed. We do have data.com. I don't know if it's active, but it's definitely sitting there. I can see it.
Well, and something else to think about is you said it. Yeah, I mean, data.com, obviously, if it's from an unmanaged package, or maybe even if it's from a managed package, you may still be able, if you can't completely get rid of them, you may still be able to inactivate the values, which is an arduous process to go through.
Yeah.
But that would at least prevent the options from showing up to the users on records until you can figure out how to completely purge them without breaking too many other things.
Yeah.
Like, in the end, you're not totally stuck. There are ways around this to still get your users' experience back on the rails.
Yeah. I mean, I guess right now, if we do have to manually go through, I have to identify the accounts that are tagged with that inappropriate,
Mhm.
and then deactivate them and just go one by one.
Well, and I guess, are there any, have you found in your data anywhere they are actually referenced?
Just in a quick hour-long search, no, but I'd want to go through all of them and see if something was tagged to it. If that's
Are you familiar with running SQL queries in either Dev Console or Workbench?
I don't, but I have a team that could help with that.
Okay, well, I'm going to put something in the chat here that.
So while Dale's typing, there's also an idea that says restrict pick list values for a standard field that talks about imports, like an imported list, updating that.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question is, okay, so what if this does happen? I thought there was a locking pick list. I thought that we already had that, of lock pick list fields.
I would think so too, but this has been something that keeps coming up. This is from 2017, around almost the exact same issue. Can I restrict the standard industry pick list field on account records? And the answer is no.
You can lock pick list values via either validation, or I think that there is a actual feature that lets you lock pick list values, but
that's for data uploads. That's for data load.
That's for data. That's for data. Okay.
So you can only add what's actually in the list, right? Versus
right, exactly.
Right.
So there's a couple different, couple different whammies there. Wow.
I guess the other thing is, so we haven't done anything. We've just been kind of trying to research this and find paths to go down to figure it out. We haven't done anything with the field itself, because if we invest the time to clean it and fix it, we don't want to have to redo it in a month time when it comes back in again.
Well, I mean, and there's the question going back to, I think Barbie posted, data.com has been retired, but it's still enabled. So you may need to request Salesforce to disconnect you from the data.com connector or whatever it's called underneath the cover, so it won't keep updating.
Right. Okay. Thanks. I
Yeah,
think this has been the most helpful conversation I've had on this in about a month. So thank you all. I appreciate it.
We're meeting again in 2 weeks. Come back.
Yeah.
I will. Maybe I'll tell you that they're all fixed and cleaned, or another 1,300 have dropped in there mysteriously.
Yeah, we want to hear the updates. We want to hear the updates.
More
Okay.
more toilet creations or whatever that was.
I wanted to come up with the funky list, but I only remember 2 that I wanted to share. Umbrellas kind of sticks with me.
I want
It's
to add,
benign enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeannie, I
Yeah.
want to add on to that. Like when you do find the source, right? What is, and Jeannie, I'm assuming you're going to need the answer to this. What's the easiest way to clean up the metadata, like the pick list values?
Yeah, that's a question, right? Yeah.
That's like the solid follow-up question to why are these here? And then why is it happening? But now how do I clean it up without like losing my mind going click, 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 click?
Right.
Well, and it's potentially, I mean, I don't know who you have on your team from a developer standpoint, or like if it's, I've never been a developer, I've never been a coder, but I love me some XML. It's been a fun thing to dive into because you can do some pretty powerful updates like pretty quickly. You may be able to manipulate, like take all these active values and flip the switch to inactive in one push through just an XML and package update. And if you don't have anybody on your team who can do that, I mean, I ping me. I'd love to give you 30 minutes to help you through that because it's not complicated. You just have to know what keys to unlock to do it.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Dale.
Yeah. To help answer Joy's question, the best way to remove that list of choices is to not let users choose them, because as soon as users are choosing them and putting them into their data fields,
It makes it worse.
now you've got a more difficult problem to answer.
Correct.
Right. Which goes to
Yeah.
that SOQL query I put in there. If you can run it from Dev Console or Workbench or whatever, at least that will tell you how much of a problem you have. That'll quantify number of records per industry selection. If they come up 0, then great.
Just
Users
delete them all.
users aren't doing it. And
Sure.
Yeah.
no impact. But yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks,
I
everyone.
like it. I like it. I like it. All right. Do we have, that was a great question. Do we have anyone else who's got some questions, some challenges, recommendations for sunscreen? Like, I don't know.
I got challenges, but they're all of the multitasking variety.
Well,
I have a fun story, but it's not really anything that needs to be solved. Just if you want to fill time.
all right.
I think-
Don't be shy. Come on, Marty. Are you sure you don't have anything?
I probably got a question that Marty has already had to deal with, so maybe this is a question for Marty.
Marty, you're on notice.
So I'm working on one of my org that it's a candidate for financial services cloud, but we have already spent the last few years building out all of the stuff that is now in financial services cloud. And in a previous job, it was the same way with the nonprofit, what is it, NPSP, that it was maturing and building all of this stuff, but our org was quickly needing all this stuff, so we were building all the stuff. And now the question from leadership is, when do we get to a point where we have to make a decision of, do we actually get FSC or NPSP and go down the Salesforce track of trusting Salesforce and going down there where they're going to build it out and we're going to customize it and configure it and do add-ons to it? Or we've spent so much time and dedication into building our own that we just keep doing that and then watch and see what Salesforce does, and then as they build stuff, we just build our own. I don't know how to maybe even tackle this question. Is there a matrix or a mind frame in which to think about this sort of thing?
Good
Well-
question. This is Marty. It's I'd say it's a gut feeling. So, and it's a function of how critical what you're talking about. So I'll give you an example. Client was needing something like the program management module that Salesforce had implemented recently last year. They had not gone, we had done some things, but they really wanted to change some of their assumptions and things that they were doing. So said, okay, we're going to put our hands in Salesforce and use their program management module. And the good news is they have continued, Salesforce has continued to improve it. So that was a good decision. If you're going down a path where you've already done a lot and what you've done is working for you, that's where I say go with your gut of stop and wait.
Yep.
That's my opinion on the subject. Sometimes it works. And sometimes it doesn't.
So Stu, we went through this kind of conversation as well, both with NPSP and financial services. So it sounds like we were in the same meeting almost. And what it came down to is exactly what Marty was saying, but just to go a little bit deeper. So rather than a gut feeling, what we ended up doing is defining why you would go to FSC versus stay on our path. And when we looked at it, what we came to realize is it doesn't really matter what cloud you're talking about. Those clouds are just a way to kind of leapfrog ahead in your development and implementation planning, or to leapfrog past the need for resources. And in our case, this is what we decided. And so we said, if we stop right now, do a full conversion to a FSC or NSPF, nonprofit. We put a whole bunch of work in to basically take a step back and now rely on Salesforce to keep up with our changes. And even if we start building on top of it, you're kind of always like, best way I can describe it is like, say you've got a timeline of Salesforce development and you just keep diving in and out of it to improve it, but then it catches up with you. And you have to keep asking yourself, are we going to just keep using their tool or we're building our own? And in our case, we basically said we couldn't find a reason in FSC to even think about using it, that we wouldn't want to just keep doing our own thing. And so we defined that idea of that cloud just doesn't apply to us. And then we flipped it over and said, could we build something, like could we build our own marketing cloud interaction or implementation? Sure. But why would you if you can just jump light years ahead and just put in marketing cloud? So that's why we did that. So I think you're past that decision point.
Yeah, in our case, I don't want to say anything that is a career limiting statement here, but I'm
good, because we're recording this.
But I'm gonna say something, and then if I get kicked out of the ecosystem, I guess I do. It feels as if Salesforce is always 6 months behind where we need to be. That the functionality that we are, the business is asking for and that we are looking for is right here. And the Salesforce roadmap is always 6 to 12 months late. And can we wait 6 to 12 months? I don't know.
Can you wait 6 to 12 months to save several hours, weeks, and months of future development to have support parity, feature parity, all that kind of stuff? I mean, it really is a cost versus investment analysis. And I'm going to host my 18-hour TED talk on cost versus investment at some point in the future. But that's really what it comes down to, is like Squire was calling out there, like it is, where's the investment is definitely worth it. You have to get out of the cost mindset behind it, even if it does mean waiting 6 to 12 months for Salesforce to roll it out. You will reap the benefits by waiting for Salesforce to roll it out, because they're going to support it.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, yeah.
I'm sorry, Gary, what were we saying?
Unless, of course, you have a development team that's larger than Salesforce's. So, you do you.
Even then, devs are fallible.
Yeah, I agree.
If you equate it to the good, fast, cheap modeling, what you're talking about is you want it fast and you want it good.
Yeah.
If you wait for FSC, you're getting good and cheap, because in theory, Salesforce is taking on the cost of implementation and
all
support.
the customers. Yeah.
Right. So then I think you've made that decision by saying we're expensive because it'll take more time and more effort, but we'll have a better tool and we'll be faster. So I think you've made that decision already.
Good, fast, cheap. Sounds like we have an Excel implementation coming down the pike.
Where's my triangle? That's somewhere. That's good stuff.
Okay, that's it. Thank you. That's a different way of me looking about it. I forgot about the good, fast, cheap of what are you willing to give up if you don't wait?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think the uninitiated thinks it's cheaper to do it in-house, but it's not.
Yeah, right.
Right.
And that's been part of the discussion of we've built all this other stuff. Why can't we build this? It was easy for you to build all that stuff. Well, it actually wasn't easy. There were decisions that we had to make and compromises that we made. So while you didn't see all that background stuff of the gut-wrenching decisions and discussions that we had.
Here's what Mr. or Mrs. Business Person made you think it was easy. You rolled into business requirements gathering saying, we just need this.
Well, and
You
I
used
think
the J word.
And I think Dale's word earlier of future is key, because it's not what it takes to build, it's what it takes to maintain ongoing.
Mm-hmm.
It's the invisible technical debt.
Right.
The unknown technical debt that you're creating.
Because here's the thing, like here's the thing. If you've developed an application or a piece of functionality on, in-house and whatever, and yeah, great, it does the thing. Let's take Salesforce developing the same product completely off the table. I mean, let's take flow, for example. If your process is dependent on flow, and back in the day, you had to like engage it through a button and you had to hack a URL. And now, then you could do it through Process Builder. Now you can do it as a record trigger. Oh my goodness. You're like, Salesforce, even in its own native tools, is going to complicate the maturity and the maintenance of your homegrown app because of the tools that were being used.
Yeah, they're going to look at your button and say, who made that?
Right.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, funny story. So when I switched from being an admin to being a consultant 5 years ago, my backfill started coming to the Kansas City user group meeting, and I went up and I introduced myself. I was like, oh yeah, hey, you're in you're at the company I was at. I would love to see what you've done with the org. And they looked at me and they were like, yeah, we've had to undo a lot of your stuff. And I'm like, okay, that's fine, but
we would love to know why you did all this crap.
Because it was 2013, 2014, Process Builder wasn't a thing.
Right.
And, Squire Joy Stew on the inside channel here, the text of way back in the day, you had to do what you had to do to make it work. And then, the speed of business, you don't ever get time to go back and refactor or upgrade to current functionality, whatever. You take an entire sales process or service process that's built on a custom app. That is a nightmare to bring up to current spec if you're not doing what Salesforce gives you out of the box.
My 2010 release document didn't have that. The printed
exactly.
one, the printed one. So there.
All right.
No hands up still.
There's a question in chat that I think you should
excellent.
hit before you come back around.
Yeah, Reese.
Reese.
Hello.
Yay.
Yellow.
So I just said practical best practice question. Salesforce now offers by default, when you choose a get record element, that you can just get all the fields and let Salesforce store them. I'm working at a new company where I have a lot more senior admins around me, and they said that that's bad practice, that I should only query what you need. So then I asked Rakesh Gupta what he thought, and he agreed that it was bad practice, but he didn't know why. Why would Salesforce offer this as a default if it's bad practice? And I mean, I guess by thought process, I'm like, okay, I get it. Why get all the fields and waste resources if you don't need all the fields?
But maybe it's easier to remove what you don't need than it is to add in the stuff that you do need.
Well, yeah, and Salesforce is in the business of keeping you modern, not helping you like keep getting you to modern without helping you get to modern, if that makes sense.
Two.
I
Right.
didn't follow that.
They give you all the new tools and the best practices get readjusted to those new tools, but they don't give you paths to convert your existing, which was best practice at some point in time, to the new best practice.
So I guess I'm doing the opposite, right? Because that wasn't a feature that was available before, that you just got all the records. So all the senior admins have been doing it longer than me. They're like, I just choose the 3 fields I need. I'm like, I choose everything because they let me, and then I don't have to go backwards and add any fields to my get record element.
Hold on, are we
Because
talking
they're already-
get fields or get records?
When you choose a get record element, right? And now you say, okay, I've gotten the record. What fields do you want? In the latest versions, it's been a couple releases, Salesforce made the get record, gave you options. You can just get all the fields and let Salesforce store them. Or you can choose the fields you want and let Salesforce assign them. Or you can choose the fields you want and assign them to your variables. Old school guys always pick them and assign them because they're used to it.
Mm. And
I just do the get records because if I change my requirements later on in my flow, I don't have to go back to the beginning and add it. And
I'm with you. So I'm really surprised to hear that that is not best practice. Why offer it? I mean, going back to, again, maintenance, the last conversation that we had, why would that not be best practice?
I can tell you exactly why.
Okay, go. Yeah.
This conversation, like everyone's point of view is based, I'm going to make an assumption and I apologize. Like I need to get 3 fields because I have to update 3 fields. That's exactly why you only get 3 fields, like you choose them. Now, what if I said to you, I need to get all the columns for a like a triggered action. Do you want to pick what's the current max number of fields on an object?
85,000.
Yeah. Do you want to manually have to pick 85,000 columns for that use case? No. So this is their way of saying, when you want to do select star from firm or from account, here's how you do it. But don't use it automatically. Fall back to pick the columns you want.
Yeah. So then what happens when you add a new field to the object that's part of a process? You have to create the new field, go into flows and processes, and look at every single node. Well, first take the new field, assign, and add. From a maintenance standpoint, that's a lot more overhead versus if, again, select star. The select star is reusable. It's durable because it's going to grab whatever is in the world at that time. And as it continues to grow, it's going to continue to capture the whole world, whether or not you use it. So how much, I guess I would ask, how much of a resource load suck is it to run the select star versus the manual maintenance of every time you add a new field to your process, you have to go in and evaluate every single node on potentially some pretty hairy processes.
Exactly. That's why you shouldn't, what you're describing, Dale, is why you shouldn't use get all columns unless you have a reason to. So you don't have to do that maintenance. The only time you get star is when you need star. So very generically.
So back to the beginning though, Stuart or Squire, why do they make it the default then?
Right.
Well, that's the better question.
Okay.
Or shouldn't. It's about, yes, you're right. It should be the default. There should be more documentation. This is echoing exactly what that conversation 2 weeks ago was about, which is Flow is a developer tool, whether you are an admin or not. And so understanding heap size and the ability to debug, like I'll make an exaggeration. Let's say you are, I don't know, this might be close to home, but say you have an object with 20 long text fields.
Way too close to home, yeah.
All right. If I say get star and get my max number of fields, I could hit a heap limit and the debug wouldn't tell an average admin how to fix that problem. So the star helps in unique specific cases, but you should be picking the columns you really want.
Well, and I'm still listening to you, but you might have seen me go, Mike Troy just gave me the best answer that will totally convince me that regardless of whether Salesforce is after offering it by default, that is the reason right there that I should not do it, because I am going through deprecation nightmares.
Really? Okay, so hold on. If I'm reading that correctly, if you tell the flow, get all records from the object, every single record on the object will have that flow appear on where is this used?
No, the field. If you say get all fields,
Right.
now it's in your flow. So if you, that's a good reason. That's
Even if
really
it's
good.
never, I'm sorry, I'm going to beat this one to death. Even if it's never explicitly leveraged in criteria or to update or anything, every single field.
You know what? I'll have to test it. I've done it a few times and I can.
Like, that's bad on the product manager of where is this used.
Yeah, now you say that, you're right, because I think if you tear apart the flow metadata, it doesn't list every column.
Right. It's just saying go find everything, because that's then what lets you, that's what helps you piggyback across records to say, hey, I know if I'm leveraging off of this case and I need to find something about the contact, great. All the contact fields are eligible. I may not necessarily use them. They shouldn't be listed in the flows metadata until you say contact.email or, contact.supplied name or whatever.
But I think it is because they're assigning it to a variable,
but they're not, though. Until you explicitly say I need to use the field for something, you're technically not assigning it to anything.
No. Well, according to the help documentation, I am a sheep. I am not a shepherd. I merely read documentation and recite it back to you. I put it into chat. The get records element does two things. It looks up the Salesforce record using the criteria you set, and it finds the ID matching that in a flow variable. And the flow variable can be a record, or the container can be one thing or many things, right? Okay. Second, the get records element automatically stores all those record values in that flow variable. All of them.
But aren't you talking about a get record element? We're not talking, aren't you too high when you talk about this?
But
too easy, low hanging fruit.
But we're talking about the get record. That was the question.
Yeah, that was my question.
Why does get record get all of the items for the account ID? It grabs everything for the account ID. It's because this is how they built it, so that when the flow moves to the next element, that all of those values are available for whatever kind of decision you need to make. They built
Stuart,
it that
are you
way.
saying, all right, wait, we might be talking about two different things, right? So get record, you have a choice to get all of the fields and let Salesforce assign them, or choose what fields and assign them. So I would think it'd be different if you chose only these fields.
Yes. Well,
you can, yes, you can filter down to just grab certain fields. Yes.
But here's the other thing that makes me think that, what maybe Salesforce is saying, hey, it's not best practice, but we're doing it and you should do it too. We don't care. Because the other thing too is the whole S record thing. Because now when you do a record triggered flow, it's storing all the fields in some sense. I mean, it has to be, because you don't even have to do a get record about the account ID that triggered the flow. You just go down to the S record and there's all the fields, and all the fields related to the records that are related to the record you're looking at.
It is and it isn't, because when you explicitly state a field, you are pulling that value from the metadata API into the metadata of the flow. If you say I need to hard store that into a variable, whereas, and this is like, I may need someone to prove me wrong on this one, but theoretically, if you say store all fields, and what you're doing is you're peeking into the window of the metadata API to say, what are all the fields on the object? And until you say, I need that field, it's staying in the metadata API. It's not being brought into the metadata of the flow, which is then what creates complications when you try to delete fields and modify them or do whatever else.
You're
So,
right, but I do think recently that I did do what Mike said, or I came across a situation where I was trying to deprecate a field, and I go to the flow, and I'm like, this is not even used. Like I don't see it used anywhere. It's not on a Git record. It's not on. It was like an old version.
But I mean, what makes it interesting, like I totally don't doubt that you may be seeing what you're seeing. What's very interesting that I would love to tag Salesforce's product managers on this call and take them like specifically to the 3830 point, because they need to hear this conversation. So let's say hypothetically, you take an entire object and say, or get records, you're grabbing an object, take all fields. Let's say that shows up and where is this used? What's the behavior when you try to delete a field that is not explicitly referenced in a flow anywhere? Is it going to look at where is this used, or is it going to look at the metadata of the flows itself? It feels like in the total like roots of all of this, there's a gap or an ambiguity of where is this used? Because if you click where is this used and it says it's in a flow, even though you never explicitly whatever, you're going to create a pretty big headache for an admin where that where is this used tool was supposed to be a benefit to help you shortcut the exploration of trying to delete something and then being greeted with, no, you can't. So I'm one way or another, there's an enhancement somewhere in this that Salesforce potentially needs to take on, in my opinion.
Well, I think I have my weekend testing planned out. I'm gonna find out.
Yeah, you're my kind of people.
Well, I used to be a QA tester before I became
fully
admin. So,
there you go.
We QA looks for anything they can break. That's how you do good testing. Try to break it.
And allow me to qualify. And I know the whole topic was about flow, and they are their own headache with maintenance, but I was specifically referencing reports, not flows, where people will drag all fields onto a report, which is different than highlighting an entire object in an entire record in a flow.
We have classic Salesforce
type, the default fields.
Mm-hmm.
They're all over the place.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, but Mike, if it does work out that way after I do testing this weekend, then that would be exactly a reason not to do it.
Well, so the report types I would be less concerned about, because that doesn't necessarily mean they're being used in reports. If they're being used in reports, I mean, your first culprit is the classic report builder, where you could take an entire folder or multi-select fields and just throw them in the report canvas. Whereas I don't think you can do that in Lightning Report Builder anymore. They shored that one up, but it still does beg the question, why is all of this set up the way that it is? Or why is something a best practice? And there's definitely some flaws in that.
I think one of the things that's missing, and this is probably a pretty good article to go back to and read, but one of the pieces that's missing is that when you store an object in a variable, it's effectively a text string of attribute and value in a single object, versus when you parse out that record into its individual variables and put them in columns. What Salesforce has done in the flow is basically said, I want a collection, but it's probably really doing is creating either a map or a list or a set, depending on what your criteria are. And you can't see that in the flow to understand whether or not you're referencing a specific queryable column, or if you're just getting a list of objects. I can't imagine, and I have nothing to prove this, that's why I want to read this article, but I can't imagine where is this used, seeing a field column that isn't being referenced as a variable triggering itself. So I'm hoping that when you finish your testing this weekend, what you see is what you would have expected, which is it doesn't care if you only store the record. It does care as soon as you start interacting with any one of those columns.
And Squire, that's kind of what that article is saying, that even though you specify get all fields, it's only actually drawing back the ones that are referenced in the flow itself. So if you only reference 2 fields, it's only pulling back the 2 fields, and there's a debug details and things in that article. Yeah, about where you are right now.
So lots to be read.
So that'd be cool if that was right, because I'll just use it forever.
Well, and
Right, yeah, but
the
and
Salesforce feedback is, should it be renamed, automatically store all used fields?
Good point. If that's accurate, it should.
Yeah, because like this statement right here is saying, okay, now go inside that object and get the text.1 or the .text1 value. And because you've done that, now this formula is referencing those columns, and now it's part of the, yeah. So this, yeah, there's lots to be read here. This is interesting. Thank you for finding this, Todd.
Finally figuring out how to search for stuff like that.
How to Google. All right, we are closing in on time. Does anybody else have any kicking and screaming about flow that we want to add?
Put it in the success community. Put it in our Trailblazer group, because we are not going to be able to like dive into too much more here. But thank you for the tips about kids sunscreen 30 plus. You're so right.
If we get a chance in one of our upcoming calls, what I was going to talk about was I pulled a component off of Unofficial SF that has saved my life, and I wanted to share it with everyone, but we can come back to it at any time.
Cliffhanger.
Yeah.
I know, right?
Join us August 20th
The short version,
for Save My Life.
it's the data table component, and it allows you to build a visual flow screen that looks like a completely editable related list that allows you to inline edit and save mid-screen. It is spectacular.
Oh, Eric Smith data table?
Yeah, that's the one. It is great. It is so, oh my God, like it changed. Like we're actually rewriting flows right now because of it.
Nice.
Yeah. So I'll definitely want to show everybody that when we get a chance to.
Hey, Squire, would you like to share that at an upcoming user group meeting?
I would love to. Everybody should know about this thing. It is so cool.
I like it.
Hey, Squire, would you like to share that at another upcoming user group meeting?
Let's book them.
Hey,
Maybe another.
Hey,
Squire,
Dale.
Squire, would
do a
you like
combo
to
meeting.
share that at a upcoming user group meeting?
I'll talk to my receptionist and see if we can get someone.
No, not your receptionist, your agent. You got to talk to your agent.
Combo this meeting.
Yeah.
I
How
can't
about
get for it. I'll just demo it.
A combo.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we could put 300 people in one group. It'd be great.
Triplets.
I mean, how many questions could there be?
85,000.
Maybe we can even get Eric Smith
That would be cool too.
to join you.
Oh, special guest.
All right, goals 159. Bye, everybody. We love you. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Because I'm going to turn off the Zoom line because I have another meeting. Bye.
Thank you.
I do have to go
Bye.
home. I will be going home.
See you, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.